What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy. Want to wish you a very happy Sunday night, Sunday, July 27th, 2025. Thus begins, as many people are going to say on many different shows, on many different podcasts, many different videos, the first week until of the first week of a run of weeks until like mid-February, where there's a football game every single week. That's the long way of saying that. Obviously, it's Sunday, so begins a new week. We've got the Hall of Fame game this coming week, and then it's preseason, college football. Before you know it, week one is here. The Cowboys playing on that Thursday night at Philadelphia. It's going to be a lot of fun. I see Rick Ursulini saying, hi, RJ. We are live on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel for anybody who wants to hang out. Been doing a lot of things lately because football is back. The Cowboys are back, so you can find me here live all throughout the week, recorded videos as well. Lots of stuff, lots of content for you here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel from me. So make sure you like the videos, make sure you subscribe. Those things help us out a lot. Also, lots of stuff all over my socials, X, Instagram, Threads at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa. You can like my Facebook page. You can like or follow whatever it's called, me on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, whatever. If you're consuming content on any kind of medium, I promise you I'm there talking all things Dallas Cowboys. As mentioned, the first week of camp is in the books for the Cowboys. It feels like it's been longer than that, at least in my estimation, but we're here today to talk about the first week because today is Sunday. Last Sunday was report day for the Cowboys. And so I know, again, you kind of think about it, it feels like so much has happened. It feels like there's no way that has only been, in a week's worth of time, but nevertheless, that's where we're at. And because it's been a week's worth of time, we are kind of establishing a rhythm where things are happening kind of on a regular basis. The metronome has found its kind of beats back and forth. And so we are kind of back in the machine, back in the process that we're well accustomed to as football fans, as Dallas Cowboys fans. But with a week's worth of training camp, it's time to kind of take stock of what we've seen, what the reports out of Oxnard are. I'm obviously not there this year. Yeah, these are my 5 takeaways from the first week of training camp for the Cowboys. Now, these are kind of macro takeaways. I see you, Rick Ursulini, saying good to see you live again. I know that the last year was very complicated, just to kind of answer that question because I get it a lot. We had a very complicated issue with the SB Nation Podcast Network. I wish I had an answer there. I still don't. It's been about a year and a half, and I still don't. Believe me, we are very frustrated, myself and lots of other people. But I can be live here. I do have full autonomy to be able to do things on this YouTube channel. So this is my home for content, obviously in a visual capacity, but any kind of talking or discussing or analyzing or live streaming or whatever it is that I do, obviously recorded things, lives here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. And of course, as I mentioned, all across my socials. I've gotten this question a lot as well. There will be live shows every single year this year, or every single week this year, following Dallas Cowboys games. That includes the preseason. You can watch the live post-game shows, not only here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. Yes, you can watch them here, but also in the Bleacher Report app. I'm partnering with my friends at Bleacher Report yet again this season, so you can watch them in one of 2 destinations. But if you like YouTube, if you're here, you already subscribe to the channel, you don't have to do anything else. You just have to show up after the games, and we'll be hanging out, kind of breaking down what happened, doing stock report, all that kind of fun stuff. But all right, 5 takeaways from the first week of training camp for the Dallas Cowboys. Like I said, they feel macro, but they're also relative to what's going on. And so they're not macro, right? They're specific in that sense. Let's go ahead and get to it. So first things first, it has been, and you can read, but let's set the tempo here. It has been so good for football to be the focus, but obviously contract things have been a thing. Now, there have been football practices. Today, Sunday, July 27th, maybe you're watching this Monday, was the first padded practice of the season. The Dallas Cowboys put on football pads and played football today. Granted, it was practice. It wasn't a game. It wasn't even a scrimmage, but still, they put on football pads and helmets and played football. That is very cool. So it's awesome to have football stuff happening. And there are football takeaways to come away with. And we, I think, all knew, and we all can admit that that we understood that once football began kind of happening, the metronome began moving back and forth, like we said, that some of these things would fade, right? That some of our anger would subside, that some of this just other crap would dissipate, because that's kind of the way that things tend to go, right? Is that the football happens and, we just kind of fall in line and we sing the same songs and we cheer the same cheers and we're back to business. But here we sit a week into camp, right? A week after the Cowboys reported to Oxnard, and contract news is a thing today. What with Jake Ferguson obviously getting his 4-year, $52 million extension. We'll get to that in a moment here. But this has become a thing. Now, Jerry Jones was booed. I'm sure you've seen the clip kind of circulating around the internet. People are pissed off that he hasn't paid Micah Parsons, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't really have a thing to kind of offer beyond the obvious here. It was, unfortunately, very predictable that the Dallas Cowboys would get to training camp and, heck, even be here a week into training camp with the Micah Parsons deal not taken care of. There is not a rational, logical reason to support this still being the case. And against my better judgment, and I think maybe you against your better judgment, did not believe that this would happen, because maybe we finally thought, or we thought that common sense would finally win out. We thought, okay, you did this with other players, but this is Micah Parsons. This would be ridiculous to get to camp, to get a week into camp. And so we should have seen it. We should have known. We should have gone chalk, right? We should have said, Lucy's going to pull the ball again. Yet somehow, some way we fell for it. And so that this is still a thing at this point in time, you simply cannot come to the conclusion or any other conclusion that is for attention. And that is sad, and it is small, and it is ridiculous, but nevertheless, that is the case. So will it be taken care of before the Cowboys break camp in Oxnard? I don't know. I have a hard time saying anything at this point in time. If I have to throw out anything that I hold confidence in, it's that I don't think that Micah Parsons misses games this year for the Cowboys, because we all also know how this ends, right? The silliest thing about this Micah Parsons situation is that we know how it ends. We know this ends with the Cowboys giving him a blank check and bending the knee and caving to each and every request that he has. We have seen this time and time and time again. We've seen it with some players multiple times, Dak Prescott, obviously. So we know how this ends, which is why, going through this process is so stupid. Just sim to end and get us there so that we don't have to worry about it. And Micah can be a part of things. We don't have to keep having the same cyclical conversation over and over again. And we know how it ends in the future with whoever you want to spin the wheel on, whether that's Tyler Smith or Deron Bland or Brandon Aubrey or George Pickens, X, Y, and Z. We know how it ends, Cowboys. You're not fooling anybody. This attention you think you're getting isn't it anymore. Just get this over with, because nobody is laughing. Nobody's entertained. Everybody's just sad that this is the case. Rick Ursulini said, hopefully signed by the end of training camp. It took until the Oxnard portion of camp was done for CD to get taken care of. I don't have to remind anybody that it took for the season actually starting for Dak Prescott to get taken care of. So ultimately, again, the takeaway that I wrote here was that it's been good to have football back, but the contract talks are a thing. Like, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I don't think that you can have a football conversation about the Cowboys right now with a friend of yours or a family, like whoever it is that you kind of converse with. I don't think you can have those conversations without the Micah thing coming up, right? Like, whoever your buddy is, your pal, your friend, your pen pal, whoever that you've been talking ball with, you've been saying, man, Donovan Ezeiruaku is just kind of killing it. Invariably, your conversation ultimately takes a turn to the place of saying, yeah, it's really stupid that this Micah thing is still a thing. Like that's it. It is inescapable, which is why it is what it is. In the flats, what's going on? Says RJ going live. I feel like if Guyton is great, we win 11 games. And if he stinks, we only win 6. I've boiled the whole season down to that point. In the flats, I did a video a few weeks ago where I talked about Jenga pieces on the Cowboys roster. It's a ism from Dave Damashek that he coined many years ago. Like the popular game Jenga. We're talking about the pieces, the non-quarterbacks, because obviously Dak Prescott is critical to this team. So the non-Dak Prescott players, who are those Jenga pieces that if you pull them, the whole structure comes tumbling down. And I agree with you. I think Tyler Guyton is one of those Jenga pieces. You can make an argument that he's the most quintessential Jenga piece, because while someone like CeeDee Lamb is better, right? Someone like Micah Parsons is better. If Tyler Guyton stinks, he impacts the quarterback to a very large degree. So that's kind of cheating. That's kind of picking the quarterback by extension. But I'm completely with you in the flats, and that a lot depends on Tyler Guyton taking the step this year. Rick says, love that Jake Ferguson is signed for 4 more years. Let's get to takeaway number 2, because that is topical. It's great to see Jake Ferguson taken care of, but obviously it is ridiculous to be at this point with Micah. And I know we just kind of talked about this, but we can get to this point with other players, right? Like the Micah thing is its own thing. Like there's not a single person who that agrees with the Micah thing being a thing right now. But why is Deron Bland not taken care of? Why is Tyler Smith not taken care of? Why is Brandon Aubrey not taken care of? I shared on social media, you may have seen it, a video apologizing for being against the George Pickens trade at first. And I've been saying this for months now. If you're going to trade for George Pickens, which they did, you should extend him, because again, why are you going to dance this dance? Why are you going to get to March of next year and maybe tag him and all this stupid stuff when you can just get the extension done now? Part of what's awesome about this Jake Ferguson deal, and we should all be celebrating here, I think too many people are mad, and rightfully so, about the state of contract situations with the Cowboys. Micah, Brandon Aubrey, Tyler Smith, Deron Bland, George Pickens, etc. And they're taking that anger out relative to Jake Ferguson. These are separate things, right? Like, no one is justifying the way the Cowboys have gone about Micah and the crew and saying, yeah, they had to take care of Jake Ferguson first. Taking care of Jake Ferguson now was smart. I know he had a down year last year. I would remind you that he got hurt in week 1 against Cleveland, and obviously everything was toxic. And so getting ahead on this is smart. Paying a player who we know can be successful in this offense with this quarterback, with this offensive cast, is smart. You have the quarterback taken care of for the foreseeable future. You have the star wide receiver taken care of for the foreseeable future. This is a serious commitment to the tight end position in a way that we haven't seen the Cowboys make in a bit, all right? You know, they didn't do this with Dalton Schultz, the franchise tag situation with him, and that wasn't the wrong way to go about that. But it's nice to know that the core of this offense is going to be together for the foreseeable future. So I'm great with this Jake Ferguson deal. I love it. I think it's smart. I think it's wise. I think you can hold those opinions separate from the fact that the Cowboys have gone about other contractual situations, like people who have no idea what they're doing, or people who are hell-bent on garnering attention for the stupidest reasons possible. But taking care of Jake Ferguson was very smart, was very wise, was very good business. And if you are talking about the business of it all, was very shrewd business, what with Jake Ferguson coming off of a down year. And this is the thing, people correctly, in my opinion, are saying, oh, the Cowboys are betting on Jake Ferguson being good. Yes, of course. That's why they're giving him a contract extension. Here's the thing. The other players who you are ultimately always going to sign extensions to, or ultimately do sign extensions with, you're also betting on them. You were betting on Dak Prescott. You were betting on CeeDee Lamb. You're betting on Micah Parsons. You're betting on players. So why would you bet against yourself and send players into contract years? It's the same conversation that we have all the time. But I'm thrilled for Jake Ferguson. I'm pumped for the offense. I think he brings an attitude that the Cowboys need desperately. In a lot of ways, he's kind of that, you know, that mixer-upper kind of personality. So that's great. I'm super pumped. I think it's awesome. I think it was a fantastic thing. If you had told me he would be the first extension to get done once camp was rocking and rolling and a week old, I definitely would not have had that on my bingo card, but it is exciting nevertheless. So let's get to takeaway number 3. Donovan Ezeiruaku seems like a serious dude. Now, if there is, and look, let's be very clear here. When the Cowboys, let's get to some comments here really quickly, because I know we have a couple. Suzanne Jackson says, it's okay to be happy for Jake and keeping a really good tight end and still be mad about Parsons not getting done. Exactly. Suzanne, you totally get it. These are separate things. And no one who, my watch is picking up all this. That's going to be an interesting text message that somebody's going to get. But no one, not a soul alive, is saying this was the way to do it. This was the sequence to do it. To Suzanne's point, to my point, nobody is saying, yes, hell yeah, I wanted Jake Ferguson taken care of before Micah Parsons. No, nobody is saying that. What we are saying is this is a good thing in a vacuum. We're looking at this in a vacuum. And what I am also saying, I don't want to speak for Suzanne or anybody else here, but this disposition, taking care of players as soon as they're eligible for contract extensions, is wise. And if you had done that with Micah a year ago, you would not be chasing the situation. You should be doing this with Tyler Smith, who's part of the draft class that Jake Ferguson is a part of. You should be doing this with Deron Bland. Same sort of situation here, right? Like, it's ridiculous to still, pretend like you don't understand this concept, because we know that the Cowboys understand this concept. I know that a lot of people say they're dumb and things like that. They're not. Nobody is this dumb, right? Like, nobody who's ever bought anything is this dumb, right? Everybody understands the basic principle of what's happening here. The Cowboys just drag this on because reasons. And so, yes, you can be excited about Jake Ferguson and still maintain your same level of passion and anger and outrage that the Micah deal isn't taken care of, or Tyler Smith, or Deron Bland, or Brandon Aubrey, or George Pickens. You have a lot of options to choose from. Rick Ursolini says, I saw Tommy Yarish tweeted his interview with Jerry. Yeah, let's put that up on the screen here, because I saw this a moment ago. This was great. Tommy's been so awesome in his first training camp with the team. I'm looking. I saw it just a second ago. This was important context to the point here. Here we go. So let me get this up on the screen here. Found it. Give me a second, everybody. I'm moving. I'm sharing. Here we go. Okay, so Rick, your tweet says, I saw Tommy tweet his interview. Jerry said he likes to sign a lot of players by the end of training camp, etc. Okay, now let's put this up on the screen now that we know the context for what we're discussing. And here we go. All right, let's zoom in on what Tommy's interview with Jerry had to say. This is Tommy Yarish of DallasCowboys.com's interview with Jerry Jones, to be clear. So Tommy's setting the scene in this interview that the Cowboys got the Jake Ferguson deal done, whatever. And then we get to the quotes from Jerry. Well, the Cowboys, the framework of the point is the Cowboys want to do more, want to have other extensions done. Well, yeah, of course. Again, this is from DallasCowboys.com. Jones said when asked if he hopes other deals can get done before the team leaves Oxnard, it's gotten to be such the commonplace thing for people that have existing contracts to potentially want to negotiate, which creates a good topic for training camp. That's the most important point here, people, is that it is a good topic for training camp. I digress. This goes on all over the league. It kind of doesn't, but whatever. You just have to take it as it comes and say, this is just a part of it. That is true. Everyone, Micah, Dak, CD, all of their first comments last week were, yeah, this sucks that Micah's going through it, and it's unfortunate, and we went through it, and we hate it for him, but, you know, it's just, it's the game. And it doesn't have to be, but it is. Anyway, Micah, Tyler Smith, Deron Bland, Brandon Aubrey are a few names that come to mind when it comes to extensions for key players, et cetera, et cetera. Jerry's quote continued, the facts are that most of the time these players have contracts. They all quite literally have contracts. If they're on the team, they quite literally have a contract, and some meaningful contracts. So you've always got the possibility that if you don't get something adjusted on that contract, you're still going to play. Jerry continued again, DallasCowboys.com. Now, a lot of times guys say, well, they're implying that they might not play. Obviously, Micah's holding in. We've seen holdouts happen in the past, and I get that too. But the fact that we've got a structure here and we've allocated these dollars for the whole team, and that when we move from that, we take away from what we're paying some of the other players. Our job is to get the best players out there with all the money that we've got to do it. All right. So this was a good quote, Rick. Thank you for reminding me of it. And again, shout out to Tommy, has done just amazing work so far throughout camp. That being said, like, I don't even feel like I don't have the energy to call BS on this. Like, this is very simple. Okay. And I'm also going to respond to people because this was floating around when the Jake deal came out on Sunday morning. I happened to be walking my dogs when this news broke, so I recorded a video. I think I'm going to keep the dog walking videos going this year. People, you all seem to like this, and that's kind of cool. Bear and Honey feel very pleased and feel proud to be a part of the content. But so many people said some version of, well, you know, yeah, they got this deal done early, but they got the Jalen Smith deal done early, and they got the Zeke deal done early. Granted, the Zeke deal was precipitated or premeditated or whatever, forced by Zeke holding out. And the Lyle Collins deal and the Terrence Steele deal and the Trayvon Diggs deal. Here's the thing. I can't defend the Zeke deal, and I can't defend the Jalen Smith deal because the Cowboys paid positions that, you know, you shouldn't be paying premium money to, right? That's, again, kind of to the previous point, we can have multiple conversations at the same time. I'm not, nor was I ever, advocating for paying a running back, for paying an off-ball linebacker, right? Like, that's those are not the positions that you want to invest serious resources in. Those aren't the places where this conversation is directed to. This conversation, this blanket covers a wide swath of area. Still, even then, those positions do not fall underneath it. We're talking about the money 5 positions. We're talking about quarterback, wide receiver, star wide receiver, pass rusher, star corner, star tackles. Like the most expensive positions in the game, you want to pay those as soon as possible so you can get the best discount possible. It's not a discount when you pay it, but it becomes one as the market rises. We've had this conversation a million times. And to that end, to that point, I will sit here and I will tell you that it was the right thing for the Dallas Cowboys to pay Trayvon Diggs when they did. Specifically Trayvon Diggs, but even Terrence Steele did, or when they paid Terrence Steele. And all of you, I don't even want to say yahoos, because I understand that Terrence Steele and Trayvon Diggs have been disappointing. I don't believe that they've been disappointing to justify the owner and general manager taking shots at them on the public record at the beginning of a training camp press conference. That's a whole different subject as well. But even if you think they suck, even if you think they're terrible, even if you think that they are trash, all right, that would be wrong in my estimation. But even if you hold that opinion, the logic behind paying them when the Cowboys did was sound and was smart. And you know how I can prove that to you? Because they can move on from them in the offseason, in March, after the Cowboys have hosted a parade for winning the Super Bowl, if they want, they can cut Terrence Steele, they can cut Trayvon Diggs, and they can move on for no real consequence to them. That's obviously not literally true, but you get the point that they can move on and not really absorb much dead weight, dead cap, whatever. And the reason that is the case is because they took care of the extensions when they did. There are so many cons to waiting on extensions. And one of them is that the longer you wait, the longer you were potentially tied to that player from the moment you sign it, right? I have a bottle of water here, but the top is open. I'm going to close it, and hopefully this doesn't, blow up in my face. Let's pretend this isn't a bottle of water. Let's pretend it's an hourglass, right? The moment the Cowboys, because there's a lot of you who don't like Dak Prescott, who think he sucks, stinking Dak, hack, whatever, blah, blah, yak Prescott. I've heard all the super cute, super clever nicknames, right? The moment the Cowboys signed that extension with Dak Prescott last year, they flipped the hourglass upside down. And now we're watching all the grains of sand tick down. But the moment they did that was last year. And we had to start like the bottom was empty, and we were still watching. There's still so much sand left in here. But because the Cowboys flipped this much earlier with Trayvon Diggs, there's only a little bit of sand left in here, right? There's only a little bit of sand left to go before this team can move on. So I support getting deals done as early as possible for a number of reasons. And one of them, again, is it gives you the earliest possible runway to get off of this highway, to get out of this deal, to get be done with this contract. That was true for Trayvon Diggs. That was true for Terrence Steele. That was true for Jalen Smith and Lyle Collins and Zeke Elliott. And that will be true for Jake Ferguson if and when the Cowboys decide to move on in 2-3 years' time. That is part of the reason. That is part of what we're always saying here. Let's see here. Sarah Certitude Wavy God says everybody gets a turn, and then adds, I think Ferguson could break out this season. Right timing paid him ahead. Yeah, I mean, and if he does break out, we'll all be sitting here being like, well done, badass, great job, guys. And that's smart. And if he doesn't, okay. If he doesn't break out at the end of the day, I will never chastise this front office for taking a chance, for being bold, for being cunning, for being daring. And these aren't even daring things, but they're forward thinking for them. Or this is standard operating procedure for the bulk of the NFL. But dude, respect. It's kind of like when you have a kid that can start walking. There's other kids who run and jump. You're like, that's okay. We're on the move now. You can move. You're no longer stationary. You're no longer a blob that just sits on the ground. And so today, the Cowboys were not a blob, and for that, I will give them some serious props. But back to Donovan Ezeiruaku, because we had a bit of a filibuster there. Rick says Donovan is going to be a dude. I say up to 10 sacks this season. I don't know that I'm going to go that far, but this was one of my takeaways as well. And I just realized I only have 4 takeaways here, but we'll get to it. I only have 4 written down. If there is a benefit, and the Cowboys are going to spin it this way, that's what I was getting to here. Whenever the Micah deal ultimately happens, the Cowboys are going to tell us that part of the genius behind waiting the way they did and Micah holding in was that it allowed extra snaps, extra time, extra opportunity for a rookie second-round pick like Donovan Ezeiruaku. And that's true. In a vacuum, that's true. It does not mean the way you went about this was smart. It does not justify the Micah stuff. And I don't want to sit here and make everything about Micah. I'm just saying, do not fall for that bait. Do not fall for that rage bait when the Cowboys throw it out in a month's time or whatever. Hopefully it doesn't take that long. But Donovan Ezeiruaku, holy crap. I know that there were so many people that were pumped that he fell to the Cowboys in the second round. I know a lot of people had late first-round grades on him. It has been interesting. I think that we've gotten understandably, distracted by a lot of things throughout the first week of camp. It's been kind of easy to forget that, there's no DeMarcus Lawrence, there's no Zach Martin. And I think that that's noticeable from a leadership standpoint. We saw Micah kind of, be a leader, kind of represent Trayvon Diggs, especially after Jerry's stupid shot or whatever. But there's also, DeMarcus Lawrence, think what you want about him. I think and I know he left on poor terms, but I think he was a highly productive player for this team. And all of a sudden, forget Micah, that snap share is available. So you're talking about, right? Today was the first padded practice of the year for the Cowboys, and there was no DeMarcus Lawrence and no Micah Parsons relative to what we've recently known them to operate with. And so, yeah, that offers a lot of opportunity for Donovan Ezeiruaku and for Dante Fowler and, Sam Williams. We can go down and down and down and down. You get my point. And man, like, this is exciting. I know we have a high level of hype in Tyler Booker. And I also know that the Cowboys' track record in the second round isn't fantastic. But ultimately, I don't know. I would not go as far as saying 10 sacks. I love you, Rick. I'm not going to go. Was it Rick who said this? It was Rick who said it. I'm not going to go that far. But I definitely think he will be influential and impactful. And I think he might be one of the more impactful second round picks the Cowboys have had in recent memory. I recognize that bar is super duper low. But I think that Donovan Ezeiruaku has a lot of potential. Look, the Cowboys have taken a lot of chances in the second round in the past. We know this. Donovan Ezeiruaku was the right chance to take. And the circumstances with DeMarcus Lawrence being gone and Micah holding in have opened the door for us and the coaching staff and everybody to be able to see who he is and what he can be early on. That is very exciting. I think that it's very fair to suggest or believe or even anticipate that Donovan Ezeiruaku is going to be a significant contributor to the 2025 Dallas Cowboys. And I think it's fair to believe that he's going to be the star pass rusher opposite of Micah Parsons for the foreseeable future, certainly for the life of his rookie contract. So he is a very, very, very serious thing. I think one of the biggest winners from the first week of training camp. I think there's all the reason in the world to be excited about Donovan. And so, yeah, I'm pretty pumped. Ryan says it's our year. I agree. 1./JG26_JDog says I will be more excited once Micah signs and that drama is over. I mean, I don't blame you for that. That's fair. Let's keep going. My fourth takeaway. Heck, I thought I wrote down 5. I don't know what happened here, but the CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens relationship feels real and very football-y in the way we all love. Now, what I mean by football-y is, I don't know about any of you, but I have watched. Let me say it like this. I don't know what you are consuming on a day-to-day basis, but lately I have been watching like each and every single college football hype video that crosses my timeline in whatever app, whatever platform. I'm just all for. I'm all pumped in the, like, you know, the cuts these people do, the edits they do, they're amazing, and they have just the best music, and it just feels awesome. And you can just, you know, there were some cut-ups I saw set to Animals by Nickelback, and I thought that was awesome. I always thought that would be a great highlight song, and I'd never seen anybody do anything like so. So my mind has been kind of on football, like from a cinematic standpoint. And CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are very much that. They are very much what we love about football. This brotherhood, this Super Mario Brothers, this just like kind of back and forth teammate, you know, handshake, special stuff. Like it is what we love. It speaks to how we love this game when we first fell in love with it. It speaks to how this game still holds us and you know, forces us to love it sometimes. Like, it just is perfect in every single way. And you don't get this all the time. You know, there are successful players and successful relationships and successful points of chemistry, but still this feels special in that sense. That isn't like, oh, it feels special, it's our year, but there's something to what they have going on that is just super cool, man. And it is fun. And I think kind of reminds us again what we first thought was fun about this game and why we found it to be fun. So I'm grateful for CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens kind of tugging on those heartstrings and relighting that fire, for me at least, and I hope for you in a lot of senses as well. Let's see here. J-Dog says, just call me J-Dog, and adds that Lamb and Pickens will be fun to watch. I agree with you. I think they're one of the more fun elements about this team. And there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to obviously, you know, play a role. And I mean, like, that relationship, I think, is going to go a long way. I mean, I've watched and listened to every interview I can from camp so far, and I've never seen CD. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but I've never seen CD as just like giddy as he is. You know, Brian Schottenheimer was on 105.3 The Fan. He was on the KNC Masterpiece last week. And there was a great question, just kind of about who has been a leader to this point in camp that you weren't necessarily anticipating. And the question was phrased like, obviously you have an idea that like Dak's going to be a leader, right? Like, but who's kind of just in a way caught you by surprise? He mentioned Solomon Thomas. He said he's a quiet guy, but he's leading by example. And he mentioned CeeDee. He said that CeeDee's kind of doing some different stuff, and he's had a chance to kind of develop into a leader in a different way. And I think we've all seen that he's really kind of taken George Pickens and flown with him. So I do feel like this has unlocked something in CeeDee Lamb. I know there's not a Cowboys fan out there that doesn't love CeeDee Lamb. I don't think there's an NFL fan out there that doesn't love CeeDee Lamb. But it's cool to see, a twist on who he is and what he can do and what he can accomplish. And I think that we're all enjoying that very much. Let's get to takeaway number 5. Let's see here. Here it is. It's about to get real in a very, very mild sense, because it's easy, right? I think it's easy when J Doug agrees, by the way, says CD really seems positive and happy this camp. I agree with you, obviously. It's easy. I've been to Oxnard many times, and it's easy for it to be fun and energetic and, whatever, when it's new and it's the first. And, like today was the first padded practice, right? Like when all that energy is still a buzz. It's California, but it's still hot, right? Like at a certain point, it does feel dog days of summery, right? Like, so, you're a weekend and some of those butterflies, start to flap away and fade. And so how can they hold this, right? How can they keep this bottled? What they're building is important and has to last, not just through training camp, but across an entire season. So how do you prevent the attrition? How do you prevent the callus? How do you prevent the yawn? How do you prevent any of that from kind of seeping in? It's not quite there, but that I think when you first get when you first get a new phone or a new device, you peel the plastic off, and every time you put it down, you're like, oh, I better be careful with my new phone, right? And then a week or a month or whatever, and you're like, oh, whatever, right? Like, and I don't know that we're quite at that point with the 2025 Dallas Cowboys, or if they themselves are quite at that point, but you get my point. Like, we're going to get to that point. Like, time's going to wear on. And so I'm fascinated to see how they can continue, because I believe they can, to hold this, to keep this going. Like, is it challenging each other? Is it leaning on one another? Is it, the preseason arriving will help those kinds of things. But I'm excited to see the marathon of it all. The first 2 miles when your playlist is rocking are super easy, but then you hit mile 3 and you mile 4, and there's one of those checkpoints that doesn't even have water, right? Like, I've never run a marathon, to be very clear, but my wife did sign me up for a half next March. So who knows? Maybe I'm wish casting stuff for myself, but I'm very excited to see how the Cowboys can kind of continue to build the plane as they fly, if that makes sense. Let's see here. Rick says, I was going to this year, but plans fell through, hoping to go next year to Oxnard. I hope you're going to a game or something, because this team, I give you my word, this is not in a this feels different sort of way, but this team has some buzz. I thought there was, there have been a lot of questions, whoever have been doing the interviews for different members of the Cowboys, talking about, look, things definitely feel different than last year. And everyone's saying, yeah, we all agree. We all know. We all can understand. We're all adult enough to be able to acknowledge and to admit and to say out loud in our reflection, our analysis, that last year was insanely toxic. It was broken. I mean, the team was sabotaged by their front office, and that rippled into every facet of who they were and how they operated across the entire season. That's not there this year, so it feels better. And there are good things happening, right? Free agency was fun. The trades were fun. The George Pickens trade, Jake Ferguson's got a new deal, right? Like, these things are happening that were completely foreign to last year's team. So I think that, the vibes are good. I know that phrase gets said a lot in today's day and age, but the vibes are legitimately positive, and it's exciting to see how they're going to continue to work as camp moves along. Yeah. So my name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on any level of social media. If you have the app, whatever it is, and you have an account, I promise you can find me on that particular platform. Talking Dallas Cowboys, it's what I love to do. I'm beyond blessed that it's what I get to do every day. I'm thankful to each and every one of you who hangs out with me wherever you do. And I promise we've got lots more coming, obviously, as camp continues to unfold. We'll have live post-game shows starting in the preseason. So it's going to be a fun year, fun season, and I'm grateful to experience it all alongside each and every single one of you. Thank you to everybody for hanging out. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your Sunday evening. And let's go ahead and get out of here. See you next time.